There are also far-right and conspiracy theory so-called news companies such as Rebel Media and Urban Scoop.
Far-right conspiracy theorists. So predictable. Last week, a particular video had been circulating online from Parliament where a particular member of Parliament from, of course, the Labour Party, her name Alex Davies-Jones, who gave a speech in Parliament on the subject of the online safety bill. This new bill that's going to be coming around very soon, and it's in its very early stages of being looked at, is a worrying bill, to say the least. The idea of the bill is to criminalise what people say online, depending, of course, on the subject. Within this bill are a list of harmful communications that, of course, will turn into offences if, of course, this bill is passed through. Many of these, however, are already illegal. For example, human trafficking is on the list. Threats to rape, kill, or inflict physical violence on someone, doesn't matter who it is, of course, illegal. Hoax bomb threats, for example, are on this list. Fraud and people smuggling and even online drug and weapons dealing. So a majority of these are already illegal, yet the list is, of course, getting bigger. Things such as sharing hoax COVID-19 treatments is added to the list, and hate crimes. But back to the Labour MP, Alex Davies-Jones, who stood up in Parliament recently to give a speech about her view on the online safety bill and potential loopholes that independent journalists will exploit. Now, I've, of course, sent an email to Alex, and shock horror, she hasn't responded. It's been 4 days now, and I still haven't received anything. But she's been tweeting, of course. She's been obviously resharing things, so she's been active. She's aware. So I'm going to play the video, and I'm just going to break it down as we go. So let's begin.
The Minister knows about the important work Hope Not Hate are doing in monitoring key far-right figures, and I pay tribute to them in the excellent work that they do.
Okay, well, let's begin with the first part, where they mention, of course, a particular organisation known as Hope Not Hate. Now, this organisation, for those who don't know, are an extremist left-wing organisation who allegedly, and there's mounting evidence to suggest that this particular organisation is very in bed with the establishment. You could say that they are the real definition of controlled opposition.
Many of them self-define as journalists and could seek to exploit this loophole in the bill and propagate hate online.
Many of them self-define as journalists. So, what do you consider, Alex, as a journalist? Someone who's paid by the establishment, someone that goes along with the mainstream media and, of course, the Labour Party's narrative? Is that what you consider a real journalist?
There are also far-right and conspiracy theory so-called news companies such as Rebel Media and Urban Scoop.
Far-right conspiracy theorists. So predictable. Might I correct you, Alex? It's actually conspiracy facts. And let me ask you, what does far-right mean? Define it, please.
These both replicate mainstream news publishers, but are used to spread misinformation and discriminatory content.
How many times have you been fact-checked on Instagram or Twitter, or you just put up a meme and then they call it misinformation, and then it turns out that it becomes true within a few weeks, but the narrative has already moved on to something else and calling something else a conspiracy theory or misinformation? This is what it boils down to. They don't like you and us challenging the narrative, and that's all it is. So they'll use that as a way to shut conversation down, and it's as simple as that.
Many of these individuals and organisations have already been deplatformed for consistently breaking the terms of service of major social media platforms. But this exemption could see them demand their return and their return be allowed.
Yeah, a lot of people have been deplatformed. You're right. For questioning the narrative, questioning things about COVID, questioning things about lockdowns, questioning things about illegal immigration, the transgender debate in sports and various others. They are all questions that people want to ask and demand answers for. But you want to shut this conversation down. You don't want open discussion. So you've heard it there first. Alex Davies-Jones and many other Labour MPs and Conservatives as well in Parliament want to shut down independent media. Like I said earlier, I sent Alex an email and I'm still waiting for that reply. So I'm just going to read it out to you. So, good afternoon, Alex. In response to your recent video where you gave a speech about the online safety bill, explaining that loopholes would be exploited by certain media organisations such as Rebel Media, which you named as a far-right conspiracy theory news organisation. I'll be releasing a video, which is this video, under Rebel News outlining your claims as not only ridiculous but outright false, and to justify this claim as a way to deplatform and silence media organisations that you simply do not like. This sets a precedent for the future of independent journalists who are looking to hold account the current government and other mainstream parties such as the Labour Party in the future. The online safety bill poses a serious threat to freedom of speech and expression with the use of vague terms such as potentially harmful content, which in itself is subjective. What one person sees as potentially harmful, others could perceive this in other ways, especially for adults. This approach also of we know it's harmful when we see it is even more of a concern. Why would you allow the state to have the power to dictate what is potentially harmful or offensive? Other than the two organisations that you mentioned, which were us, Rebel News and Urban Scoop, who else is on your censorship list? What are the criteria for other organisations to be on this list? And that being said, how often do you watch our reports? As a journalistic organisation, whether you agree with us or not is irrelevant. We also ascribe to the principle of fair and responsible communication, so we are reaching out to you for comment. Do you think providing the fundamental Western value of free speech to your political enemies is some sort of loophole? There are 5 questions for you to answer in response, and I shall give you until Monday to reply, to have a think about your answers. Of course, no reply. Nothing. So, Alex, I'm waiting for your response. I just want you to answer those 5 questions for me. And if you can't, if you enjoy my boots on the ground, honest journalism over at Rebel News, you can now help support me over at ukreporters.co.uk, where you can go there, you can see all of my reports in the past, and of course you can chip in to help expand the UK correspondence for Rebel News. Thank you very much.